Chapter 4. Production. Jose Cabrera did this painting. As God of War entered the full swing of production, the long-sustained work of actually making the game began. At this point, the design department had blocked out all of the areas and enemies, and the art department could bring the levels to life. As with all game development, it was an exciting time during which the developers were able to sink their teeth into more specific details, but it also brought with it new challenges to solve problems rather than to create them, and to work within the constraints of the design so that the game functions properly. This was a time of frank conversations, long hours, and bargaining with designers, artists, and production to fully understand what everyone wanted to achieve. This was the phase for which everyone on the team had prepared, and the excitement was palpable. There's a particular magic that happens during this period of production, watching as what were once merely designs on paper begin to become real, playable code. For an artist to complete a painting and then to pick up a controller and walk through the space they've created, or to fight the enemies they've designed, is something special indeed. For a production as large and sprawling as this one, finally starting to see all the effort that multiple creators across many departments have put into the project truly becomes something to behold. For God of War's first E3 appearance, the team needed to come up with a global art direction style guide in order to exhibit a high level of consistency for the game's first public showing. After many meetings and lots of iteration, the team landed on its own version of mythical realism, which consisted of Norse fantasy, historical detail, and pre-digital color. Once these elements were folded together, things started to lock in and the world started to soften. Where before the game would have felt extremely dark, somewhat like a Cormac McCarthy's The Road, the elements of wonder now started to come through as the players started to see the world through Dre's eyes. Close to home, you have Dan McKim, Nate Steffens, and Luke Berliner on this page. The team knew that yellow would be the dominant color for the mother's body wrapping. We researched flora local to Scandinavia and selected the complementary purple flowers that are placed between the folds of the wrapping, said concept artist Yefim Gleigerman. We wanted to keep the fabric mostly loose to preserve the mother's femininity and to not give too many hints as to her appearance. In some of the design sketches where you see traditional Norse brooches as well as runic symbols in the ropework, but the team finally settled on something simpler and added a wreath of flowers as the final touch. Yefim Gleigerman and Mark Castanon. The team wanted each deity's look to reflect the harsh landscape in which they live, while simultaneously implying a personal history in their design. The tattooed god Baldur is the fitting example of this goal. Covered in a mix of personal and protection staves, he wears his story on his skin. Baldur concept, designing a new look for the gods. Jose Cabrera, Rafael Crasati, and Chris Gillette. In contrast to Haraldsor, Daskirtar is full use of his wings and can fly, and its full body armor shows that it is ready for battle. This also serves to further demonstrate Baldur's strength and power of being one of the few gods who is capable of taming a dragon. Dexter, Beast of the God, Stephen Oakley, and Vance Kovacs. Exploring the blacksmiths of the world with the first dwarf concept, Jose Cabrera. Halter Creature, the portable forge, Jose Cabrera, Glauco Longi, and Igor Kato. The Alder brothers, Brock and Sindri, are the dwarf brothers who famously crafted Thor's hammer. The story reveals that they are also the pair who created the Leviathan axe which Kratos wields throughout the game. The team wanted their expertise in blacksmithing and weapon making to be reflected in their character design, so along with the blacksmithing tools, Jose included some intricate metalwork in their costumes. For the designs of the Alder brothers, the weaponsmiths of the world, Yefim Gleigerman, Rafael Crasati, and Chris Gillette. While both brothers are outstanding metalsmiths, Sindri's talents are demonstrated in the meticulous, intricate details of his craft, while Brock's strengths lay in his ability to bend raw mythical ore into any shape. Their combined mastery is unmatched in any of the realms. Brock's skin has taken on a bluish-gray hue from all his exposure to working with metals like silver. Brock and Sindri, Jose Cabrera. At this point, Elfheim was very far along in production, and the concept work here serves mainly to clarify the spaces for the 3D artists. Once the team is this far into production, most of the work looks very close to what will ultimately be in the final game. One of the team's main goals was to give each area in the game a distinct look, so that when someone sees a screenshot or a stream of the game online, they know precisely where the player is. Elfheim architecture from Eric Jacobson, Charlene Owl, Sarah Swenson, and Abe Tarkey. And here we have Abe Tarkey and Mark Castanon. God of War's Dark Elf King character was designed to evoke a sense of power and majesty. Because he's the strongest of the Dark Elves and the boss of the Elfheim level, the team wanted him to be larger and more impressive. We achieved this by making his horns larger, more complex, and giving him more elaborate patterning on his skin, evocative of moths and butterflies, and a more impressive weapon, said concept artist Yefim Kligerman. The team also wanted to emphasize the natural elements of this character. Instead of symmetrical bone horns on his head, his horns are more akin to tree trunks and branches, and with a root type grows on his face to further push that concept, said Kligerman. Some visual variations in the game include the red color from the hive material in their weapons and costumes. Dark Elf King, Vance Kovacs, and Yefim Kligerman, and Vance Kovacs. For many of the game's sand bowl puzzles, the level designers wanted to implement large environmental surprises. For instance, erasing the giant symbols out of the water and lining them up as shown in these illustrations. Artist Jin Kim for Elfheim Sand Bowl. The team had a vague concept for the Dusk Veil from early on, but still needed to find a language for the Dusk Veil material that would be growing throughout. Senior concept artist Abe Tarkey was instrumental in developing a set of assets that could be combined to make different tendrils and coverings for the level. Inside the Dusk Veil from Abe Tarkey. From the start of development, director Cory Barlog's idea was for the Valkyries to wear a harness of metal wings, rather than possess natural feathered wings. In our version of the narrative, these wings have been bestowed by Odin to each of his 9 hand-picked warriors, said lead concept artist Taylor Longfish. As his concept developed, the wings became an effective attack mechanism unto themselves, and using their wings in battle, these skilled warriors are also capable of pulling weapons out of thin air using their mastery of Bifrost abilities. Concept artist Vance Kovacs created a number of masked versions, and being unable to read the emotions on their faces added to their imposing visage. For the masks, we based each one on a different animal, with the queen being the most mythical of them at all, a dragon, eagle, vulture, raven, deer, owl, bear, boar, ram. Valkyrie Concepts redesigning classic characters from Stephen Oakley, Taylor Longfish, and Vance Kovacs. Early concept of the Valkyries surveying the battlefield for worthy souls from Vance Kovacs. Justin Sweet and Vance Kovacs did these haunting designs for the Valkyries that struck a great balance between their elegant and frightening natures. These pieces set the tonal direction of this set of characters. Out of the group of 9 Valkyries, the team wanted the queen to feel unique from all the others. Aside from her armor being based on a dragon, Jose made a version with gilded gold armor that helped make her design stand out. A harness of metal wings from Justin Sweet. The Gilded Queen from Igor, Keto, and Jose Cabrera. After many iterations, the level design for Tyr's Temple was finally being locked down, but the team still struggled with the level's visual aspects. It wasn't until several new sketches depicted Tyr as a strong, imposing monument atop the temple that the team was satisfied with the level's artistic direction. It was also decided that the architectural materials would consist of black, polished volcanic rock, red glass with gold accents, giving it a strong, powerful, and rather ostentatious aesthetic. Opulence of Tyr from Luke Berliner and Jin Kim and Abe Tarkey. Springing from the middle of the Lake of Nine, an enormous and decaying statue of Tyr reigns over the location. The idea behind the statue is that if the Lake of Nine temple's opulence was a reflection of Tyr's personality, then this statue was meant to embody Tyr's stature, said senior concept artist Abe Tarkey. When Kratos and Atreus arrive at the Lake of Nine for the first time, they see half of the decrepit statue above the waterline. The rest of the statue is submerged along with the hidden Lake of Nine temple. The inscription on the statue's chest is an order to Kratos and Atreus, telling them to forfeit their weapons into the lake. The Tyr statue was designed with the consideration that its builder had access to a variety of different cultures, hence the armor and weapons having a historically mixed look. This intentional sampling of different casts of different eras resulted in various parts of the design being influenced by different cultures. For example, while the chest armor is derived from Nordic and Celtic cultures, the helmet has Egyptian and Persian traits in its shape and detailing. It's only later in their journey that the father and son realize that the statue's poor condition is not merely the result of natural decay, but also of a great battle that took place surrounding it. This conflict resulted in Tyr's mysterious disappearance and the flooding of the Lake of Nine. Tyr and his army, Abe Tarkey and Jin Kim. This is beautiful painting, this one. It's incredible look. And there's the temple in the bottom. And they have no idea what's down there. Jose Cabrera, I was waiting for them to get to the world serpent. This must be the part that was mad. That was incredible what they did with the world serpent in the game. Here we go. The world serpent was a fun challenge, said concept artist Stephen Oakley. Turning a simple snake into an immense, wise, and intimidating character, rather than a simple creature, was an interesting task. Oakley and the team played around with the idea of features like a catfish whiskers to endow the serpent with sage-like quality, but ultimately opted instead for a dangling lake of foliage on his beard and underside. Exploring designs of the game of the giant world serpent for Stephen Oakley. We played with the idea that the world serpent was getting ready to shed its old earth-encrusted white skin, and experimented with non-snake-like heads, adding flippers and even gills, so he'd feel more at home in the water we find him in during the game, said concept artist Stephen Oakley, who then created this concept art. And more. Final look for Rafael Grassati, Igor Keto, and Cloco Longhi. And here we have Rafael Grassati, Axel Grossman, Igor Keto, and Glauco Longhi. This is a good picture. The puzzle in the Lake of Nine's water trap room presented an interesting logistical challenge. The visual development department is often given an outline by the design department that specifies what to develop. In the case of the water trap room, the only context provided said that Tyr had set a trap for other gods who had come in to steal his treasures. The trap could only be released through the cooperation of two otherwise extremely uncooperative gods. The ruined stone vault from aspects of gameplay with the larger story. The traps of tier, you have Abe Darkay, Luke Berliner, Jin Kim, Kevin Quinn, and Nate Stevens. Magni and Modi are the sons of Thor. Unlike the gods of Olympus, the Norse gods have an unrefined or less ornate look while still retaining a brutal nature about them. We wanted the designs of their faces and costumes to have imperfections and imply history to the characters. This can be seen in the designs of Magni and Modi. Even the ornate parts of their costumes are banged up and covered in dirt and grime. Living in the shadow of their father's deeds, Magni and Modi are always trying to measure up to him. While they may not be as powerful as their father, they still possess some aspects of his abilities. When paired together in combat, their combined might causes complete destruction. Magni and Modi, the sons of Thor, Yefim Klinkerman and Vance Kovacs. And here we have Joe Kennedy and Vance Kovacs. In an inescapable past from Yefim Klinkerman. This is Athena. And this is Zeus. The team wanted the player to feel utter despair as they watched the dead come into Helheim, shuffling and shivering down the bridge as Kratos pushes himself through the stinging squall, winding his way around the entrance. Here we see some work exploring these themes. Jin Kim. This is a good one. I like this one big time. And here we have the guarded gate from Jin Kim and Anis Naim. Artist Jin Kim explored the aesthetic concept of the dead walking across the bridge, an idea that was in fact a holdover idea from Helheim, but made more sense in this context. Helheim architecture exploration from Jin Kim. The visual development department spent a great deal of time designing the game's architecture and the trims that adorn it. One long-standing hallmark of the God of War games are their generous proportions, with lots of push and pull between forms. Jin Kim and Jose Cabrera did this. The small ships of Helheim were mainly used to ferry the dead where they will be trained and outfitted as soldiers in Hel's army. In Norse mythology, once Ragnarok occurs, this undead army will descend upon Midgard. Corey wanted the player to feel like they were working with Kratos to hack the boat to convert it into a flying ship to escape. The docks in Helheim feature loads of weapon racks littered about as the soldiers of the dead prepared for Ragnarok. This allowed a closer look at the river of knives that can first be seen in the vista on the player's entrance into Helheim. The docks of Helheim from Jin Kim. Helheim skiff from Sukru Gilman, Philip Weisfeld, Nate Steffens, and Jin Kim. God of War's broods were originally envisioned as creatures of smoke and glass, part physical and part spirit. While they appear smaller than most enemies, they are summoned in various forms and attack in groups. Lead concept artist Hila Longfish. Brood, a character of smoke and glass, from Vance Kovacs and Hila Longfish. The Nightmare was an interesting creation. What started as an ordinary small flying enemy quickly took a life of its own, playing off a core idea to these creatures being a cruel parody of Odin's sacrifice die. The idea quickly took shape into one of the more unsettling designs in the game. Pulling from Norse mythology, the team found a name, Mare, and a deeper identity that we stuck with to this day. Nightmare, a deadly watcher from Stephen Oakley. Jotunheim is known for its golden and glittering fields, and is the ultimate objective and final destination of the game. The art team tinted the entire area with a warm yellow color palette, tying back to the colors associated with the mother to imply her connection to the giants. Because this would also be the place where Atreus begins to understand his ancestry, the team wanted to show off the giants' some masonry, including a massive homage to their journey from Midgard to Jotunheim. The giant's fingers from Mark Castanon. As a player moves through Jotunheim, they start to realize that even though they've made it to their goal, darkness still stretches out before them. Upon cresting over the summit, we see a wasteland of corpses, past travelers who have fallen over the hills through the clouds. Mark Castanon and Jin Kim. Here we have Etched in Stone from Jose Cabrera. As a concept artist, I believe that in every piece of artwork we create, we are in search for the right combination of design and narrative to help create the unique solution to whatever challenge we may face. The Chode 9 interior was a unique challenge to me because it had so much narrative significance. It ended up being sort of a sanctuary or an homage that the giants built for themselves as a way to remember who they were. It took several necessary explorations to get to that point where we all felt we were able to deliver something so narratively compelling, said Mark Castanon. Here we have the Chode 9 interior exploration from Jose Cabrera and Mark Castanon. The story of the giants from Mark Castanon. Because this is the first non-linear God of War title, the team had to approach its lighting in a very different way. The goal became to devise a strategy that would allow them to light the game at a high quality while still feeling dynamic. To accomplish this, the light position and angle were kept universally consistent, while modulating the color, intensity, and the armor of visible sky and fog over time. This allowed the team to light larger areas like the Lake of Nine once, but still maintain the feeling of variety and change. Prologue, Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, and Epilogue. The Witch of the Woods is a very complex character. We wanted her design to capture a mix of warrior spirit and a compassionate heart, steal a longfish. Her character is also someone who is in touch with the natural world and still retains a sense of nobility. As she aids our heroes on their journey, we discover much more of her backstory than she first leads on. Witch of the Woods from Abe Tarkay and Vance Kovacs. The initial pitch for the Witch of the Woods. Boat was a gilded magical creature. The initial pitch for the Witch of the Woods is boar was a gilded magical creature that stands out from all other boars. In some of the initial sketches, the entire body had a golden sheen. Ultimately, the team landed on a more subdued version, with flaxen hair, golden horns, sparkling skin, and golden particles in the boar's toes. The black skin was integrated to provide higher contrast with the gold on the boar's body, and the stave markings on its body reflect its mythological nature. It is from Yefim Glickerman and Vance Kovacs. An otherworldly look from Mark Castanon. A window into Vanheim from Mark Castanon. These are beautiful paintings. Home of the fire giants, Melfenheim. Muspelheim is a hot volcanic world. The art team created an imposing hellscape through which players would grind, battling enemies, and ascending up a giant volcano. The fire giant's sword was an inspiration for some of these concepts. The lore states that Surtur can forge a giant sword of fire and lava, which will be used during Ragnarok to slay the gods and burn the world. Abe Tarkay and Jim Kim did both of these drawings. Early in development, the team was prototyping levels ideas with the goal of taking risks beyond what we could do in a critical path story level. We started to explore the use of extremely heavy fog to add atmosphere, but also to add mystery to the world. This broke many of the design metrics and rules for the game, as much as of the player's visibility was constrained, said John Palmachuk. We ended up going with an out-of-the-box idea that made the art visually unique and the combat thrilling. Over time, layers of ideas were folded into the realm that became Niflheim. The fog became poisonous, the poison flowing from the pollen of unique Niflheim plants, which helped tie together both the visual look and design of the level. The poisonous mist of Niflheim from Jin Kim and Abe Tarkay, and then Abe Tarkay over here. Trolls are another race of creatures roaming the world of God of War. We explored various looks for the trolls, from very human-looking characters to more animalistic designs, said lead concept artist Dealer Longfish. There was a lot of talk about how they would attack in-game, as well as how intelligent they were. Vance Kovacs had a great mix of these core ideas, and his design eventually became the driving direction of the character. The look was carried through base designs of the various elemental versions of the fire, stone, and ice trolls. He's from Stephen Oakley and Dealer Longfish. Intended to make a splash, the troll was one of the first enemies to be seen in the 2016 E3 trailer. Here we see different variations on the troll's horns. Further exploration on troll variations from Vance Kovacs and Stephen Oakley. Infusing the elements of the Eye of Fire, Ice, and Rock into the character from Vance Kovacs. We wanted to put our own unique spin on trolls, which have of course been done to death over the years, said concept artist Stephen Oakley. We pushed them into more ape-like territory, augmented with tusks, which hint that they came from a time when mammoths still walked the earth. The artist added thick rhino-like skin and growths that matched the sort of magic one might see from these beast attacks, the magic of which originates from the markers they carry around in a strange but potent symbiotic relationship. To create our own type of mythology for the characters in our world, we put thought into their backstory and imagined who they are and where they might come from. With the trolls, there was an idea that as they wandered the world, they would collect or hoard things they come upon. Whether it was shiny, broken swords, rune stones, or animal bones, each troll has their favorite things to hoard. The team also liked the idea that the trolls have intelligence, and we represented this by having them be able to speak their own language, as seen in the 2016 E3 trailer. This one was done by Vance Kovacs. The summit of the mountain serves as a constant goal for the player as they work their way through Midgard, and was a major point of focus for creative director Cory Barlog. Here we see just a fraction of the visual work that went into creating the summit. The henge at the top of the mountain served as the back door into Jotunheim, hidden away and locked inside a magical bubble of springtime. Senior concept artist Mark Castanon conceptualized that the giants spilled some seeds as they were leaving through this back door and caused an abundance of supernatural growth at the very top of the mountain. The highest point of Midgard from Jose Cabrera, Paul Coda, Timo Fishalamaki, Raul Aprecio, Myra Zwishk, and Mark Castanon. And this is the supernatural growth at the top of the icy mountain. Mimir is a god of immense wisdom. Too valuable to kill, Odin has imprisoned Ymir and often takes counsel from him. In order to ensure Mimir's truthfulness, Odin has enchanted his tongue and mind, so he can never lie. These were some of the early options the team entertained when exploring the form Mimir's prison would take. Mimir, imprisoned god, from Vance Kovacs. Because Mimir's head is the only part of his body that the player sees through most of the game, the team had to make sure that it was able to tell his entire story. Mimir's gilded horns and glowing eye allude to his high stature prior to his imprisonment, as well as a magical ability. His long beard indicates the length of his captivity, and his eye is missing to demonstrate the torture he underwent while trapped inside the tree. Taylor Longfish and Vance Kovacs. We wanted the dragon's appearance to reflect its purpose, and since its main mode of transport was burrowing, we decided to give the dragon a bony head to facilitate easier travel, as well as gills that help it to trap things that are pulled into its maw, said Oakley. We wanted to subvert the traditional dragon appearance and make it feel subterranean, so we withered its wings away and enlarged its front claws to help it clear rocks as it travels through the mountain. Justin Sweet and Stephen Oakley. The dragon's seahorse-like webbing serves as a subterranean design element from Justin Sweet. Since this dragon lives inside a mountain, we wanted that to be reflected in its appearance, with pale skin and wings that have degenerated, since it no longer needs to fly. See concept artist Stephen Oakley. Again, Stephen Oakley. Finalizing the house are Justin Sweet and Dealer Longfish. Elser Exploration and Evolution, Mark Castanon, Glauco Longhi, and Igor Kato. Final design of Leviathan Axe with upgrade exploration, Stephen Oakley and Jose Cabrera. In Norse mythology, Yggdrasil is a mythical tree which grows out of the Lake of Nine, its branches interconnecting the various worlds. The challenge was to use this iconic piece of Norse mythology to justify a particular this case using the tree's magic to travel between worlds. Aesthetically, the tree and the device required great physical presence, but also an ethereal connection to one another. The Lake of Nine and Yggdrasil go hand in hand with Nordic mythology, since both were thought to be ever-present in everything in existence. Taking this into account, the team brought both of these non-physical objects into existing physical forms. The brim of the well includes a sculptural depiction of all different realms and its connection to the tree that travels between them. On the base of the pedestal, we can see three owl-like figures, with the central figure being Urt. In their talons, the bluish shape represents the Bifrost, carried by the gods and used to travel between realms. The realm travel room from Luke Berliner and Abe Darkay. And Abe Darkay again. Brock's shop serves as a makeshift method for the player to upgrade gear. The location's design indicates that Brock moved into the space gradually, acquiring each object one at a time, while slowly settling in and making it his own. During conversations about the purpose the room would have originally served in the temple, it was determined that Tyr used the space as a common room while he ventured out throughout the realms. The series of doors surrounding the interior of the realm travel room was an integral feature of the location. Each door features a preview of the realm to which it's connected, which was born of the team's desire to make each portal immediately recognizable. Even though the player isn't able to visit every one of these realms over the course of the game, the inclusion of extra doors helps to build a world beyond what is accessible. Broad Shop and Tyr's Temple from Abe Darkay. Area of Elfheim, Svartalheim, Vanheim, Muspelheim, Niflheim, Asgard, and Jotunheim. The doors to the realms from Mood. Triptych designs from Jose Cabrera and Mood. Mood over here. The final Revenant design depicts a character who seemingly floats above the ground and whose anatomy is exaggerated in bizarre ways to create an uneasy feeling for the player. Having arrived at a specific character design, the team is often required to create additional variations on that design for gameplay needs and visual variety. The goal is for each variation to look unique within a given class, but not so different from the base design that it feels like a completely different enemy class. Final Revenant designs and gameplay variations from Stephen Oakley, Yefim Kligerman. For the ancient design, we wanted to have this creature of rock feel like it originated from the environment, so many of our sketches had runestone markers and other gameplay elements intraceably incorporated into the design, said to concept artist Yefim Kligerman. Ideally, the ancient would be hidden in plain sight and surprise the player. The team also wanted to push the silhouette of the golden away from a human form. We had headless and multiple-faced versions, quadrupeds in different ways. The ancient would shift its weight due to its asymmetrical limbs, said Kligerman, designing the ancient from Stephen Oakley. We also wanted to incorporate some storytelling into the design, so players would notice that the final version has a sword and shield stuck in its stone body, hitting at all the prior battles it has faced and endured, said Yefim Kligerman. Stephen Oakley and Yefim Kligerman did these. The first designs exploring what giants in God of War might look like. These giants are master stone workers and have been a long-ranging war with, as illustrated by the dead body of the stonemason slain by Thor's own chisel. A design of the stonemason before his demise from Jose Cabrera and Jin Kim. And over here, the tools of the stonemason from Vance Kovacs, Jin Kim, and Dealer Longfish. The Mason Trail and Shoreline Exploration from Mood and Mark Castanon. Thor's statue offered an opportunity to add a point of interest in the Lake of Nine, while also demonstrating Thor's character as the Titanic statue lords over Tyr's temple. The original concept featured only the feet of the statue, the world serpent having already consumed the top half, which would have been encountered by the player at a later point. The team was concerned that players would miss the connection between the statue and its disembodied feet, and decided that the image of the world serpent devouring the statue was too exciting to pass up. That moment is now featured in the game. Shrine of Thor from Abe Darkay. When designing the sun's armor, the team wanted there to be a thorough line with Kratos' armor and how it was categorized. So while the sun has fewer armor options, they are still classified into yellow for speed, blue for defense, and red for offense. We were very cognizant as to how bulky the sun's armor could be overall, and we made sure to keep the essence of his gameplay appearance intact to Yefim Kligerman. He's a light and fast long-range fighter that isn't weighed down by heavy armor. So for the defensive set, we went with some more scale armor and mythical creature hides, contrasting the solid sheets of metal to make up Kratos' defensive armor. Atreus' costume explorations from Jose Cabrera. For the Sun's offensive armor set, the concept was to focus on the mechanics of firing an arrow effectively. To that end, the sleeve was removed from Atreus' firing arm and a guard was added to the other. The colors and materials used for this set matched Kratos' offensive armor, while catering specifically to archery and not melee combat, said Kligerman. We pushed the speed set in a more mythological direction with the addition of enchanted leather and metal. Jose Cabrera did this. While defining the new look for Kratos took a great deal of iteration on its own, the team also wanted to create a variety of costume upgrades for the player to obtain throughout the game. The initial direction was to create armor sets to complement a variety of playstyles, including sets optimized for defense, offense, or emphasizing Kratos' speed. The team took inspiration from mythical creatures in the game's own environments to direct the creation of each unique armor. Kratos' costume explorations from Yefim Kligerman and Jose Cabrera, Stephen Oakley, and Yefim Kligerman and Jose Cabrera. Designing the main cast of characters is the first thing one thinks about on a project like this, but we also aim to give the same attention to detail to anything we have to design, no matter how small Satila Longfish, whether it's Atreus' arrows, Kratos' knife, or the chain scars that remain covered. Our hope is that his attention to detail adds depth to all the elements within the world, making them all more believable. Weapons of the World, Yefim Kligerman, Stephen Oakley, and Dila Longfish. And final progression for the Leviathan axe and the bow, from Dila Longfish, Yefim Kligerman, Stephen Oakley. All rivers flow to the sea, or at least to the Lake of Nine in Midgard, says John Palmerchuk. The lake connects all the realms and hidden areas of the world. Due to its vast size, the art team spent considerable time distinguishing different areas to help orient the player. Areas are marked with grand monuments like statues, waterfalls, shipwrecks, and a glacier. The first visit to the lake symbolizes the breath of fresh air and expansiveness that one feels on the open water, giving the player a much grander experience while exploring the world. The Lake of Nine shoreline from Luke Berliner and Mark Castanon, Jin Kim, Abe Darkay, Mark Castanon, and Luke Berliner. Father and Son, A Wondrous Journey from Jose Cabrera. Thank you to everyone who made this possible. The Art of God of War, an intimate chronicle of the years-long odyssey to bring Kratos and Atreus' beautiful and brutal world to life. It is a new beginning for Kratos, living in as a man outside the shadow of the gods. He seeks solitude in the unfamiliar hands of Norse mythology. With no purpose and his son at his side, Kratos must fight for survival as powerful forces threaten to disrupt the new life he has created. Step into Midgard and explore beyond as Dark Horse Books and Santa Monica Studio proudly present the quintessential companion to God of War. This is a document unlike any other that sets readers on a behind-the-scenes journey to witness the creation of an epic of tremendous scale. Darkhorse.com, godofwar.com, PlayStation.com. Thank you for spending time with me as we looked at the art of God of War. I apologize for some of the camera angles or the sound, as this was an awkward book in length to try to capture, while also trying to do this as whisper/soft-spoken video. But now that it is complete, more videos will be on the way, as I will show you some video game pickups that I have gotten over the last months, and I'll share all those with you, as well as more art books and other video game related materials, as well as some role plays to come. So thank you for subscribing, and give a thumbs up. It helps me out. We'll see you next time.